They said it would make America stronger. They said it would bring back jobs. They promised a revival of industries long thought lost to globalization. But what followed was something no one had fully prepared for. A ripple effect that sent shockwaves through businesses, households, and entire sectors of the economy. It began with tariffs, taxes imposed on foreign goods to protect domestic industries. The steel and aluminum industries were among the first to see change. American mills, once on the brink of closure, fired up again. Jobs returned, wages rose, and for a brief moment, it seemed like the gamble had paid off. But what was meant to protect one industry came at the cost of many others. Companies that depended on these raw materials, automakers, construction firms, appliance manufacturers, were suddenly facing soaring costs. Ford and General Motors, symbols of American manufacturing, warned of job losses due to increased expenses. Harley-Davidson, an iconic American brand, made the controversial decision to shift some of its production overseas to escape retaliatory tariffs from other nations. The wave of protectionism intended to rebuild industry was now forcing American companies to look beyond their own borders for survival. But the effects did not stop at corporations. American consumers, unaware of the complex trade battles playing out in the background, started feeling the impact where it hurt the most: their wallets. Prices on everyday goods began to climb. Washing machines saw an overnight price increase of 12%. The cost of electronics, furniture, and clothing edged higher, leaving families to pay more for the same essentials they had always relied on. While policymakers assured the public that these sacrifices were necessary for long-term prosperity, for millions of Americans, it felt more like an invisible tax, one they had never voted for but were forced to pay. And then there were the farmers. If steelworkers were the first to feel the benefits of tariffs, farmers were the first to feel the retaliation. China, once the largest buyer of American soybeans and agricultural products, struck back. Orders were cancelled, shipments were turned away, and American farmers were left with warehouses full of unsold crops. The government rushed in with emergency aid. $28 billion in bailout payments meant to soften the blow. But no amount of money could buy back the lost markets. China had already turned to Brazil for soybeans, and the relationships built over decades of trade had started to erode. Farmers were told to hold the line, to endure the pain for the good of the country. But for many, it was a battle they simply could not afford to fight. The economic cost did not stop there. As businesses struggled with rising costs and retaliatory tariffs, layoffs began to creep into industries far beyond manufacturing. It was estimated that for every steelworker who gained a job, several others in downstream industries lost theirs. Factories that relied on imported parts faced higher production costs, forcing some to move operations to other countries rather than pay the price of tariffs. By the time the dust settled, economists estimated that tariffs had led to a net loss of 300,000 American jobs. Even as wages stagnated and job losses mounted, the cost of living continued to rise. Inflation, fueled by the increased cost of goods, began eating away at household budgets. The Federal Reserve, in an attempt to control the damage, had to adjust its monetary policies. But for many, it was too late. The economy was feeling the squeeze, and the people were paying the price. Perhaps the most unsettling part of this economic war was that the primary objective, the reduction of the U.S. trade deficit, was never truly achieved. While tariffs curbed imports from China, they did not eliminate America's reliance on foreign goods. Instead, companies simply turned to other suppliers: Vietnam, India, Mexico. The trade deficit shifted, but it did not disappear. The battle had been fought, but in the end, the numbers told a story of displacement rather than victory. What had started as a promise to rebuild America's economic might had turned into a costly experiment, one whose true effects were felt not in the headlines, but in the quiet struggles of businesses, workers, and families. The impact of tariffs was not just a political debate. It was a real, tangible force that reshaped industries, strained livelihoods, and forced a nation to ask itself a difficult question: was it worth it?